During the Clone Wars, Senator Padme Amidala went on various diplomatic missions across the galaxy, traveling to some of the most beautiful places in the core, but also the most terrifying in the far reaches. On one mission to the planet Rubinero in the Outer Rim, Padme took Jar Jar along, and during the trip, things went horribly wrong, with Jar Jar getting possessed by a dark side curse, and also chopping off one of Anakin's arms. So let's break down this dark and chaotic mission. Before we dive in, make sure you're subscribed, as this is the first issue of my Dark Side Tales series, which will cover some of the darkest and most terrifying stories from Vader's castle. So the story begins on the fiery world of Mustafar, home to Vader's castle. Inside is the mysterious figure Venee, who you will likely remember from Rogue One. Venee was the acolyte who attended Darth Vader inside of his chamber, and was also supposed to be Veris Hydan from Rebels, until Lucasfilm decided that there would be too many connections to the show. Either way, Venee has entered the deepest chambers of Vader's castle, and is calling out to his former idol, wondering if he is truly dead. In return, the Dark Acolyte does actually hear a response from Darth Vader, telling him that the Sith can never be defeated, and that he will someday return. The way that he is able to communicate with Vader here is because although we know in canon that only light side beings can manifest full force ghosts, dark side users can remain present after death, but are bound to physical objects like a helmet or location. In this case, Vader is pretty much split, with his dark side surviving and being bound to his castle, and his light side obviously becoming a true force ghost as Anakin. Following this, Vader demands that Venee start the ancient Sith ritual, and he does so, calling upon the immortal gods of the Sith, summoning their malevolence, anger, and dread. He demands that the Dark Lord have his revenge against all of those who have done wrong to the Sith. While this is happening, a young boy on the planet Orcus 2 is inside a huge ancient library, exploring the untold history of the galaxy, which was hidden by the Empire during its reign. Inside, he gets a holocall from his sister Lena, and demands to know when she will visit this archive on Orcus 2, calling it home. Lena asks, "Since when has this been our home?" To which her brother replies that although it wasn't exactly their home, it was the home of their family line for centuries, until they were removed from the planet before it was turned into a large sprawling library of dark side relics, knowledge and holocrons by the Empire. Artifacts and relics of unspeakable evil were stored here. The boy's droid Crater then chimes in, wishing the Empire had treated the archive with more respect after they left. Lena then asks her brother Milo, "Has he always been like that?" To which he jokingly responds, "He's happiest when he's complaining." Crater isn't too happy with this, but before he can complain too much more, Milo begins telling his sister about the dark and horrifying records he has found in the library, accounts from the Jedi Purge, art from the Old Republic, and even diagrams of Vader's castle on Mustafar. The name Mustafar itself horrified Lena, as she had a terrifying experience there previously. She then hangs up the holocall as she has a meeting with General Syndulla of the Rebel Alliance, and as this happens, the boy's droid picks up a mysterious glowing holocron. As he picks it up, Milo recalls a report he found deep inside of the archives about a senator and her Jedi bodyguard from the Clone Wars, where a strange force came over them, and very dark things started to happen. Milo even had a dream that he was the bodyguard in that situation. We then cut to the events described in the archive, far out on the planet Rubinero, where Padme, Anakin, Jar Jar and their two droids exit their ship on the dusty surface. 3PO asks Padme if she's sure traveling to this remote world is a good idea, but Anakin quickly responds asking him, "Since when has Padme ever listened to the Senate, 3PO?" Despite being asked not to investigate the area, Padme tells C-3PO that there has been a settlement on this dusty world since the early days of the High Republic, and although small, they served as a bustling outpost for traders and travelers. And now, they have suddenly stopped responding to messages from the Republic. As Jar Jar leaves the ship, he finally realizes that the whole place is deserted, asking where everyone could be. Anakin is annoyed, but tells him that's exactly why they're here in the first place. Moving through the quiet streets of the city, Anakin tells everyone to split up, which frightens 3PO, because he doesn't want to roam the ghost town alone, but he has no choice. As he moves forward, he enters a nearby building and immediately hears a large metallic clunk. In the shadows, he then sees the bright, glowing green eyes of a menacing droid, ready to pounce and crush him to bits. As this is going on, Anakin and Jar Jar are still puzzled at where the population of this town and this planet could have gone. It makes absolutely no sense that a once thriving outpost has just evaporated out of thin air. While this is happening, Jar Jar decides to start touching the golden droids that are seemingly deactivated along the street, and in typical Jar Jar fashion, he tips one over, causing it to come toppling down, moments away from crushing the clumsy Gungan. Luckily for him, Anakin uses the Force to move the falling droid out of Jar Jar's path, and is ridiculously annoyed at him, asking why he has to touch everything he sees. After this incident, Padme begins to feel concerned, asking if anyone has seen 3PO since he's been missing for quite a while. Moments later, R2 spots the Golden Protocol droid, but something is horribly wrong. The droid's eyes are glowing that same bright green as before, and a strange goo is seeping from his joints, and he's even missing an arm. Anakin tries to back away, but 3PO suddenly gains the strength of a crate dragon and topples his master over. Anakin then gets up and asks his droid when he got so strong. He is then forced to slice his protocol droid in half to protect himself and the others, and when 3PO is lying dead on the ground, he begins to apologize, but the encounter is not over just yet. His wires are now being possessed by some unknown dark entity, and they are beginning to repair the droid, bringing back his glowing green eyes. We of course know that in this flashback, 3PO's actions come as a result of the same type of dark side curse that Venee would later use in the present after Vader's death. Back to the flashback, Anakin knows that this is not good, really not good, but at this point it's too late and he's being entangled by the wiring. Jar Jar immediately calls out that Anakin is in some deep trouble, but Padme worryingly shouts out that he is not the only one. Immediately as she says this, a horde of droids in a variety of models surround the Senator and the Gungan, each with the distinctive green curse. Jar Jar then idiotically decides to try to escape the droids and help Anakin get away from 3PO's possessed grasp, but a huge cursed droid immediately grabs his leg and pummels him to the ground. At this point, Jar Jar is being swarmed by droids of all kinds, each with the same green-eyed affliction, forcing the Gungan to scream out for help. Padme looks over and attempts to help Jar Jar get out of this situation, but she's got her own problems, with the droids also swarming her, and wishes Anakin were around to start slicing them to bits. As Padme continues pushing away the savage and psychotic droids, Anakin is struggling against 3PO's slithering wires, attempting to reach out for his lightsaber. He eventually does manage to reach his blue blade, and cuts himself free, but still has one huge question. Why is all of this happening? Is it a weird type of force magic like Dathomir, corrupted oil? Really, he has no clue. Jar Jar, however, doesn't care how it started, telling Anakin that these clankers are nuts. Anakin agrees and frees Jar Jar from the wrath of the droids, before scrambling to get everyone back to the shuttle with haste. At this point, however, the wiring from the possessed droids have surrounded Anakin's mechanical hand and are making it pull Padme away, despite him wanting to run to the shuttle. He tells Padme that he can't control it, and Jar Jar comes up with an idea. He picks up a metal baking tray with his tongue from nearby and places it in his hand, before wildly launching it in Anakin's direction. The plan surprisingly works, and Jar Jar slices Anakin's mechanical arm off, saving him from the control of the dark curse, at least for now. But things aren't over yet, with the possessed 3PO crawling towards Anakin and violently grabbing his robe. R2 immediately jets in to rescue Anakin, but 3PO seemingly spreads the curse to the R2 unit, turning him against Anakin as well. At this point, almost every droid in sight is overcome with the dark curse and are chasing the living beings back onto their shuttle. As they rush back to the ship, Padme is saddened but tells Anakin that there's nothing he can do for his droids, and that he shouldn't let their sacrifice be in vain. As Padme, Jar Jar and Anakin fly off-world, Anakin is absolutely furious that he was forced to leave his two beloved droids behind, and Padme asks if he's okay. Anakin tells her that he'll live, unlike R2 and 3PO, and says that maybe the Senate was right about staying away from this desolate hellscape. Padme still doesn't know what could have possibly happened to the citizens of the planet after the droids took over, because there should still be bodies left behind, or skeletons at least. Anakin then asks Jar Jar what he thinks, but after he doesn't respond, Anakin turns around. As he turns his head, he is greeted by a horribly infected Jar Jar, suffering from the same Sith curse as the other droids. Wiring crawls from Jar Jar's body and begins to strangle Anakin, while winding up Padme's arms and inflicting sheer terror on the couple. And that's where the archive ends. Until Milo digs deeper into the archive, we'll never know how Padme and Anakin escaped, or how they rescued their two droids. Back in the library in the present day, his droid Crate finishes listening to the story, and Milo says, "I'll never look at droids the same way." But not you, of course. Unfortunately, just after he says this, Crate zaps the young boy with a jolt of electricity, knocking him unconscious and putting him under the control of Venee's dark side curse, the same type that Anakin and Padme were dealing with in the flashback. The droid has now turned on his former best friend. Crate has also been afflicted by the curse of the Dark Lord and vows to serve him. This is actually one of the oldest and most ancient dark side force powers, the ability to both control droids and even turn living beings into droids, called Mekuderu. This power allowed dark side force users to turn living organs into mechanical parts, slowly turning a living being into a techno beast. Yeah, this one is terrifying. So that is the time Jar Jar sliced Anakin's arm off, in hopes of saving his life. Make sure you're subscribed so that you'll be notified as soon as the next issue of the comic is released, and we'll find out how Anakin and Padme get out of the situation and rescue their beloved droids. Thanks so much for watching, really hope you enjoyed the video. Cheers guys, hope to see you in the next one.